and welcome to the Witch's Cauldron. My name is Paula. Today is the second video in the Wicca 201 series. If you haven't gone through the Wicca 101 series of videos, I highly encourage you to do so. Those are the ones that really set the foundation for the belief system, going over the wheel of the year, the Sabbats and Esbats, altar tools, etc., etc., the foundation. The 201 series is now building on that foundation and enabling you to make your magic and your rituals stronger. The last video, the number 1 video in this series, talked about lunar influences, about the moon, and also touched on days of the week and the influences associated with that. So we're going to take the timing and go the next step with it. So the next step is through planetary and astrological correspondences. The moon runs through the zodiac each month. Okay, and it takes a little less than 2.5 days for the moon to move from sign to sign in the zodiac. Okay, when the moon goes from one sign to another zodiac sign, there is a period of time that is called void of course. And you may have already heard this, when the moon is void of course. That indicates a period of time where the moon is actually transiting between one sign into the next. You want to avoid performing magic or rituals during this period of time. It can be any amount of time from, you know, an hour to several hours, depending on the transit, the time of year, etc., etc. There are some apps that will help you track this. And there's also, if you've bought one of the Llewellyn's astrological calendars, or, you know, its daily planetary guide, it has in there when the moon is void of course. And when it's void of course, it's transiting from one sign to the next. You really do want to avoid doing magic or spells during this period of time, because they can go very, very wonky on you because the energy is fluctuating. Okay, so think of it that way. I'm going to start with the sign of Capricorn, which is the, you know, toward the end of December into January. So from, you know, the beginning of the year through. Okay, Capricorn's influences and influence for the moon is about accomplishments, attaining things, ambition, beginnings, having confidence, concentration, focus on a goal, discipline, endings and new beginnings of other things, remaining grounded, manifesting things, let's see, overcoming obstacles, having willpower, having stability, having success. Those are some of the main themes of Capricorn's influence with the moon. Okay, so for instance, if you want to, let's bring up that bad habit. If the moon happens to be in the sign of Capricorn and in, let's say, a waxing phase, that would be a wonderful time to do a spell to overcome that bad habit. Okay, you know, to have more, bring more willpower to me, bring more strength in avoiding this habit, things of that nature. So you can see how the influences build with the moon's influence. So let's move on into Aquarius. Some of the main themes for Aquarius are like your spiritual community or community in general, having compassion, being cooperative, creative endeavors, like especially in a group dynamic. Loyalty, bringing peace, intelligence, wisdom, being sensitive, and really, and overall, embracing your spirituality. Pisces is the next sign in the zodiac, and the main themes associated with Pisces are adaptability, remaining calm, especially in like the face of an adversity, remaining that calm, gaining clarity, creativity, your emotions, keeping that calm kind of set of emotions, not getting too over emotional, imagination, justice. Pisces is a good time, you know, if you are in a legal case or something like that. Pisces is a good time to embrace it. Provided that, you know, you're the one that's seeking the justice, and, you know, you're not deserving of the hammer there. Be careful how you work with that one with legal cases. It's also about psychic ability, and unity, okay, within like a relationship or within the community. Aries is a fire sign, so it's about action. It can anger, assertiveness, having confidence and courage, that fire energy with regard to your emotion, growth, gaining independence, leadership, overcoming obstacles, being more optimistic. It's also about pregnancy, childbirth, virility and your sexuality, and about your, I'm going to put it this way, your carnal needs. It's a good time for like sex magic. Taurus, the influences for Taurus are about comfort, wealth, security, the logical mind, ruling with your mind and not your heart, endurance, remaining grounded, focusing on the home, vitality for life, love. It's also another good time for sex magic, strength and wealth, material things, material stability, financial stability. Gemini is the next. And Gemini is about, you know, the duality, okay, the twins. So it's about adaptability, cleverness, changes, communications, relationships with others, keeping your mind alert and open to changing situations, gaining knowledge. It's the sign of intelligence. It's also about community and emotions within the community. The key word for Gemini is being adaptable, being able to change. The next in line is Cancer. And Cancer is about changes, your connections with others, your subconscious, okay? It's about your emotions. It's about family, and the home, imagination. It's a good time for introspection, embracing your intuition. It's also a great time for like general magic or moon magic, not a specific, like with Aries and Taurus, good time for sex magic. This is just general magic or moon lunar magic. Nurturing, this is a good time for protection, because you think of that, the crab's shell, their protective shell, that's their little home. This is also a great time to embrace your psychic ability. It's more about romance and love, and less about the carnal, lust or the physical sexual side of a relationship. It's about being supportive and sympathetic. The next is Leo. And this Leo is it's a fire sign. It's about action, but it's also, Leos are very affectionate. It's about ambition, that authority. Think about that lion authority. Being very eloquent, and your ability to communicate and get your point across. A lot of Leos are quote unquote natural born leaders. They have that charisma and ability to communicate, to get people to believe what they're trying to get across, okay, and get behind a cause. It can be about growth, generosity, friendships, controlled strength, not just, that outward, but having that controlled strength and being able to endure trials and tribulations. It's about willpower and warmth. It's also, Leos are very passionate and very pleasure driven. So Leo is another sign for like addressing intimacy and sexual issues in a couple. And it's also a good sign for sex magic. Virgo is about beginnings and abundance, your state of consciousness, cycles, like cycles of life and death, destiny, emotions, remaining grounded, independence, the analytical mind. Virgos analyze just about everything. Where you may have like a Leo, like me, come up with the idea, I will hand it off to a Virgo to bring it to fruition, because they are the planners. They are the, the ones who put things into motion and to see it through, and if you ever want to have your closet organized, let a Virgo do it, because they're great at organizing and making things make sense. Okay. It's also about your physical and mental well-being, and also about success in business. Libra is a good time, remember, for balance. That's all about, the scales being balanced. Cooperation, fairness, having grace in times of trouble, harmony, love, marriage, relationships, justice, again, romance, sensitivity, sensuality, and unity. Scorpio. Scorpio is the very mysterious sign in the zodiac, so this is the sign of the occult, for clairvoyance, for lust, sex magic, the other world, underworld, psychic abilities, rebirth and renewal. Scorpios are also about desire and sex and lust. It's also, this is another good sign for sex magic. And it's also a sign, Scorpios are very distrustful. So you have to earn a Scorpio's trust. So if there is a question of loyalty or being able to trust or not trust someone and gaining that insight, that Scorpio influence is what you want to embrace. For Sagittarius, it's about consciousness, recognizing dangers, doing dream work, enlightenment, growth, improving yourself, becoming more independent, spirituality, travel, gaining the truth or seeing the truth of a situation. Animal magic is great during the sign of Sagittarius. Leadership ability, and also truth and unity. Now, as I said, those are just some really broad influences as the moon goes through the zodiac, okay? And that is why I really encourage people to track the moon and its influences, to look and see, you know, what phase the moon is in, see what days it's in what sign, and then write down what happens that day. There is a lunar tracking sheet in the description box that you can use to do this. And I did this for a couple of years, and you actually start seeing patterns evolve of how the influences and the zodiac influence, the elemental influence that are affiliated with the zodiacs, how those really drive and affect your sexuality, your behaviors, your level of anxieties, your level of anger, and things of that nature, where it really affects your emotions as the moon goes through its phase and through the various zodiac signs. So I really do, if you want to bond on a deeper level with lunar influences and with lunar magic, I highly encourage you to really start keeping a journal and taking note of how the moon really affects you and how the transit through the zodiac affects you on a daily basis. I think you would be very, very surprised when you do this for, you know, even a few months, of what patterns that you see start to emerge. Now let's go to the solar system, because there are also certain times when you want to be, how can I say it, a little more deliberate in how you want to word things, okay? Now, there are two things that I really want you to remember from this. And one is direct and the other is retrograde. Okay. When you look up into the sky throughout the year, it appears that the planets are moving. Okay. And they too move from, you know, zodiac sign to zodiac sign, from the different houses in your natal chart. I'm not going to get into, you know, a whole lot of astrology here. But when it's direct, it appears to be moving forward in the sky, okay? Then it goes retrograde, and it appears to be moving back the other direction. This is kind of an optical illusion. They're not really going backwards. The Earth didn't stop spinning, you know, one direction and then turn around. It's the way, you know, with the transits, the axis, and all kinds of scientific stuff that I'm not going to get into, but it's that visual that you see in the sky. And we're going to start with, if you want to bond with Earth energy, okay? Earth energy is about agriculture, creativity, being grounded, healing, home, animal magic, nurturing, protection, and spirits. All right. Let's move on to Jupiter. Jupiter's influences are on the astral realm, business, control, dignity, discipline, gaining someone's favor or generosity, having honor, having influence on someone, your intuition, prosperity, tackling problems, responsibility, success, your well-being, and gaining wisdom. Okay. When Jupiter goes retrograde, Jupiter goes retrograde every 120, every 13.1 months, and it goes retrograde for a period of 121 days. So when Jupiter is in retrograde, our attentions go from outward to inward. We may have a lot of trouble dealing with external pressure because we're so focused on ourselves and our inner environment. So you need to take this time to really explore yourself and your morals, your values. But if you can take self-absorption too far, so that you almost seem like you're greedy or selfish, and have a lack of empathy. This Jupiter retrograde is good to do something of a charitable or humanitarian kind of project, but it's really bad for starting a new business. So you want to have a hard, to not undertake a for-profit business when Jupiter is in retrograde. Okay. Now the general influences, let's move on to Mars. Mars, if you remember, is the god of war. So it's about action, aggression, anger, assertiveness, battle, war, defensive magic, life, justice, growth, determination, endurance, energy, willpower, skill, and strength. And when Mars goes retrograde, it's a good time to turn, it goes retrograde every Mars goes retrograde every 25.6 months for a period of 72 days. And when Mars is in retrograde, it's a good time to turn your attention to focus on negative or out of control emotions, okay? Particularly anger and lust, okay? Those two emotions are very heavily influenced by Mars. It gives you an opportunity to take a look and to deal with conflict and temptations, okay? If you are thinking about undertaking a new project that requires you to have like a leap of faith, great deal of willpower and ambition, Mars retrograde is not the time to do it. You want to avoid that, okay? The next one I want to talk about is Mercury. And this is probably the one that everybody hears about a lot. And Mercury, if you remember your mythology, was the messenger to the gods. And Mercury goes retrograde 3 times a year for a period of about 3 weeks. And Mercury itself, is about communication, being clever, creativity, being at a crossroads with something, inspiration, intelligence, learning, love, memory or memories, messages and omens, divination, money, rebirth, wealth, wisdom, gaining insight, things of that nature. Things of a communicative and knowledge-driven force, okay? When Mercury goes retrograde, communication, not only communication devices like your computer, your cell phone, you know, anything that's communication device oriented. It's also a time where there can be a lot of trouble where interpersonal communications go awry, okay? So if you're trying, let's say, if you're trying at work, you're trying to coordinate this big like meeting or something, okay, you're going to have to do a lot of follow-up, and you're going to have to put it in writing, and you're going to have to keep on everyone over and over, and don't assume that someone knows something all right, okay? If you're trying to undertake writing a novel, it's not a good time to edit it and try and publish it, okay? It's also, Mercury is also about travel, okay? And this is where people are more often to have accidents, to have, there can be dysfunctional traffic lights, just traffic snafus. Plan on getting lost sometime during that. But it's a good time to do like maintenance. This is a good time to do maintenance like on your vehicle. If you've got to, you know, do some maintenance on your computer, let's say cleaning out your caches and getting rid of dead files and stuff like that, that's a good time to do it. It's also a time where you may kind of obsess over conversations and things that you didn't say during that conversation. I know sometimes I get things stuck in my craw and I'm like, oh, I should have said this, and I should have gone that. And this is a time when a lot of that's going to happen. But luckily it's kind of, you know, short-lived, but man, those 3 weeks are kind of, you know, a mess. So let's go on to Neptune. And Neptune goes into retrograde every 12.07 months, a little over 12 months, a little over a year. And it goes retrograde for 158 days. Now, the normal influences of Neptune are clairvoyance, consciousness and your subconscious, psychic energy, guidance, inspiration, the other world or the underworld, protection, psychic ability, having visions, things of that nature. So when Neptune is retrograde, you become, it inspires a deeper level of spirituality and gives you a sense of being more in tune with the unseen world. In other words, you know, being more in tune with spirit. Your imagination may become more active. You may also feel a lot more suspicious, and probably with good reason, because your psychic abilities are a little bit more enhanced during this period of time. So, you know, that inner voice may be telling you to be suspicious of someone for good reason. This is a great time to work on your own psychic ability and strengthening your shields, strengthening your aura, and fending off what I'll call psychic attacks. Okay, be more diligent about protecting yourself, especially from what I call a psychic vampire. You know, those people that walk into a room and can just suck the life out of a room. There you go. That's what I call a psychic vampire. So the next one that I want to go into is Pluto. Pluto retrograde. Pluto is the slowest moving planet, okay? And when it goes retrograde, it's a time of transformation, cleansing, and regeneration, because Pluto's main influences are the afterlife, change, danger, inner darknesses, death, dream work, karma, memory, even memory of past life, rebirth and renewal, secrets, sexuality, spirituality, transformation, and wealth. So it is a time of cleansing, regeneration, transformation, but this type of healing can also be very, very disruptive. So you may feel very restless just to get rid of stuff. And you know what? Go for it. If you think that something doesn't serve you well, boom, get it out. You also may be more restless, feeling like you're not in control of your own life or your own destiny. So you have to be able to sort out what you can control and what you cannot control. It took me a lot of years to figure out that I can't own the failings of others to be decent human beings, but I can control my reaction to those people, okay? I can let them not bother me, or I can take them on in a manner that is more productive rather than just losing my shit in general, okay? So let's talk about Saturn. Saturn's normal influences are agriculture, the astral realm, again, banishing things, binding things, business, focus, discipline, endings and new beginnings, having endurance, goals. It's about loyalty, overcoming obstacles, inner peace, relationships, stability, and strength. So Saturn goes retrograde every 12.4 months for about 138 days. So it's a good idea to reassess any commitments that you've made, okay, and commitments that have been made to you. Make sure that everything is functioning at a level that is still beneficial, okay? If it's not serving you, things aren't serving you, renegotiate or get rid of it, okay? It's not a good time when Saturn is in retrograde to make new commitments, okay? And starting a new business during this time, you would probably find yourself kind of bogged down in paperwork and having to organize and reorganize things. You know, it's not that big of a deal. It's just more of, you know, a hindrance rather than a help. If the universe owes you anything, this is the time that it's going to hit. So this is when I call it the karma bite. So that's good. Karma, good or bad, you know? So just remember that. So the next one we have is Uranus. And Uranus is about ambition, changes, cooperation, community, freedom, goals, hope, illumination, or being able to see the truth, improvement, your intuition, motivation, power, and relationships. So Uranus goes retrograde every 12.15 months for a period of 151 days. And it inspires research, investigation, and you just like have explosive bursts of inspiration or invention. And it can be really disruptive if it has no direction, or it can't, if you have no direction during this time for that energy, for that of everything, it can just be kind of manifest as general rebellion. So you may see, you know, if you're a parent, your kids may be in a particularly rebellious phase for, you know, this time where Uranus is in retrograde. The next planet and final planet is Venus. And Venus is, you know, the planet of love, okay? So Venus is about agriculture, beauty, beginnings, compassion, connections, emotions, sex, fertility, friendship, happiness, harmony in the home and in relationships, love, lust, sex, passion, pleasure, relationships, romance, reversing things, sensuality, sex and sexuality, and unity within a couple. So Venus retrogrades about every 18 months for 42 days. And it affects relationships, and particularly intimate relationships. It's not a good time to really place undue stress on your relationship, because emotions are just at a higher peak right now. To address something, wait till the retrograde's over before you're making any like major changes. And it's really not a good idea to like get married during a Venus retrograde. It's a terrible time to do things like a brand new haircut. It's likely to go wrong, or a brand new, you know, color for your hair, or plastic surgery, or a tattoo, because, you know, Venus rules your personal beauty and your self-image. And if it's in retrograde, it can go really bad, wonky. Venus also affects your personal finance. So it's a good time when it's retrograde to review financial plans and tweak your budget. It's not a good time to take out a loan or get any more credit, make large purchases, or make a big investment of some kind. So I hope now you can see and appreciate that, you know, the moon drives us, but it's also influenced by planetary and astrological influences. And it's also about not only, you know, whether the moon is void of course, whether a planet is direct or indirect. There are a lot of things to consider, how to word things so that you're not going against the influences that are in place because of planetary alignments, because of a planetary retrograde, because of, you know, an influence in the zodiac. I'm not saying that you have to wait till a specific day to do this, to do this. You just need to be aware of the influence in play on any particular day or period of time that you are wanting to perform magic or do a ritual, and take those influences into consideration when you are crafting your rituals and doing your spell work. So with that, my friends, that is it for astrological influences on your magic. I hope that you found this a little bit beneficial. Be sure to leave me a comment below. Be sure to like and subscribe before you leave. And as usual, my friends, merry we did meet, merry we will part, until we merry meet again. Be well and walk in love and light, everybody. Bye.